What's up, everybody? Hope everybody's having a great day or night whenever you're watching this. I'm back with another banger. Today, I want to talk about the AFC North Division in the NFL. It is probably one of the best divisions in the entire league, always super competitive, and all four teams in the division have like strengths and weaknesses and bad losses and good losses or good wins, I should say. And it's a really tough division for me to look at and like evaluate. So I want to talk about it and see what people think about this. So before we get started, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you enjoy this kind of content, like the video, really appreciate it. All right, cool. Let's get into it. So we're going to start with the team that is in the beginning. And I have some notes here just with their wins and losses, just because I can't remember everybody. But so the Bengals, this is what we're going to start with. They got a 9-6 record. They've got good wins against the Steelers, and they beat Baltimore twice, pretty convincingly. They had a really good win against the Vikings, and then they had some tough losses. The losses to the Packers, the Niners, the Bears. They got smoked by the Chargers and smoked by the Browns. They had a really bad loss to the Jets earlier on in the season. I think that was one that went to overtime. But anytime you lose to the Jets or teams that are lower tier like that, it's not a good look, but they've got a really, really big game, the Bengals do, coming up against the Chiefs. And for me, this is kind of the one where, because it's the end of the season, you're fighting for the playoffs. Yeah, you're one seed in your division, but it is close still. This is the game for me where it's kind of make or break. Like because this team is such a wild card, you don't know which version you're going to get. You don't know if you're going to get the one that gets smoked by the Chargers or destroys the Ravens twice. So I'm really, really interested to watch this because I think it'll probably be one of the best games of the week, hopefully. But if they play poorly and you get the bad version of the Bengals that shows up against the Chiefs, then I don't really know where you go from there because they've got a solid, not great, but solid defense. Joe Mixon's a really, really nice running back. The receiving core is probably one of the top 5 in the league, maybe, because you got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and that's just to name a few of them. The one thing that this team kind of lacks, in my opinion, is a really solid O-line. I think their O-line is a little bit weak, and that's why you see guys like, Burrow taking a beating out there sometimes. But so anyway, I think their Bengals are a good team, but I don't really know how good they are because their consistency kind of fluctuates. Bengals fans, if you're watching this, let me know what you think of your team because it's tough to evaluate them because they've got great wins and then horrible losses. So it's really, really tough. But anyway, enough about the Bengals. Next up, the team that's in second in the division, we got the Baltimore Ravens. And this team, their record right now, they're 8-7. They're probably the most banged up team in the entire league. They were pretty much banged up from the day one of training camp. And it's obvious. They're missing like their entire defense. Offensively, no Lamar right now. He's missed a few games this season. They're on like the 19th running back that they've picked up. It's bad offensively. The O-line is kind of in shambles. The team is just brutally battered. And honestly, for me, it's really impressive that they've lasted this long and won as many games as they have because this team should have bottomed out a long time ago. But I think it's a credit to John Harbaugh, Lamar when he was playing. Tyler Huntley looks like a capable NFL quarterback. Even Josh Johnson looked good. And he's been on like 400 different teams. But anyway, they're just brutalized team. It's weird because they've played so many tough games and stuff, and I really don't want to see them in the playoffs because I don't take them seriously enough. Even though they do have some good wins, I just don't see them as like a team you can take. Like you shouldn't be betting on them to win much, So anyway, they're on a 4-game losing streak currently, which that's another indictment. Even though they've been missing their starting quarterback for I think 2 or 3 of those now. But anyway, they have good wins against the Chiefs early on in the season. The Colts, who have been on a tear lately, they smoked my Chargers, destroyed them. They beat the Vikings in a thriller, and then they beat the Browns in a close game. So they have some good wins on their record, but then they got some tough losses to the Steelers, the Browns once. They had a really tough loss recently against the Packers. And then there's the win. This was a little confusing for me. They got blown out by the Bengals twice. So I think the Bengals are better than them, given that the fact that when they play each other twice, they got smoked both times. And I just think they're too beat up to be taken seriously. And I don't think that's too much of a shocker or like a controversial statement. They're just battered. And it happens. They just happen to be the team this year that was just, screwed from the jump. So Ravens fans, if you're watching, I know it's been a long year. You're probably just amazed like me that you've made it this far. But if you have any other thoughts on your team, let me know. It's all good conversation, right? And then the two teams in the division that are just, I don't even understand them. The Steelers, they got a record of 7-7-1. So 7 wins, 7 losses, 1 tie. But this is what I don't understand. They have good wins. They've beaten the Bills, the Browns, the Ravens, and the Titans. That's 4 really solid wins. Those are, granted that the Browns and Ravens haven't been the greatest, but they're still solid teams, and you have to come out and beat them. Okay. And then they had the tough loss to the Chargers, where it's kind of, I don't know if it was so much of a tough loss because they were getting smacked for most of that game. And then they mustered up a really, really nice comeback, but fell short just at the end of it. They lost by 10 this is the thing with them. They've lost by 10 or more to the Bengals twice. They lost by 10 or more to the Packers and the Chiefs. And then, because those games were pretty much blowouts. And then they had a really, really bad, this is a bad game to me. It's a bad tie, which I don't even know if that's a thing, but they tied with the Lions. That's just that can't happen to be taken seriously. You cannot tie with one of the worst teams in the last few years. So that's my thing on them. But my overall opinion on their team, though, I think Big Ben, I think he's washed, he's old, but I mean that's not a bad thing. The guy's he's pushing 40. He's been through so many injuries. This was it should have been expected, and it's kind of an indictment on the front office for not being more prepared for him to be on the other side of the hill, as they say, in terms of his career. So I think it's time for him. He's just beaten up. It is what it is. He was a great quarterback for a long time. There's no shame in that. This happens to a lot of great players. Father Time's undefeated. The other thing that's not really helping him at all is the O-line, in my opinion, is awful. Their O-line is horrible. They can't run the ball. And Najee Harris, I think Najee Harris is a good running back. Yeah, he's a rookie, and rookies tend to struggle at running back. But I think they should have had a good running game or they would have had a good running game if the O-line was better. But their O-line's not talented enough. They don't have a lot of depth on there. So the quarterback takes a beating. The running back can't get going. And when teams know you can't run the ball, they can just go after your quarterback all game. So, it's a rough there. And then this is the one that I was very surprised by, very, very surprised by. Their defense has not been as good as it was supposed to be. Last year, their defense was incredible. And the biggest reason that they were even in the playoffs last year, because I think a lot of people didn't really believe in them anyway. Were they 11-0, and a lot of people weren't very scared of them. But their defense, the defense deserves credit for what they did last year, but this year they have not been that good. They've been kind of middle of the pack, in my opinion. They've had some good games and had some great performances, but they've also, had bad performances, like getting, smashed to the Bengals and the Packers and the Chiefs. So it's, they're just too inconsistent, and they haven't played up to the level that I think that they were capable of, which is kind of a letdown for them. But I think this team would have been better if the defense was able to pick up more of the slack like they did last year. But I think they're just a team that's, they're missing too many important pieces. They don't, they're not that great a quarterback anymore. They don't have anyone to protect the quarterback. And, it's it's pretty much, you're never going to be a great team if you don't have an O-line and you don't have a competent quarterback, or a quarterback that can stand behind the O-line. So I think that's where they really need to focus their efforts in the offseason, is revamping their O-line and go from there. Because I think they're not that far away from being back in the playoffs again. I don't think that's a crazy statement, but yeah, so I think this year was just a lost year for them. It is what it is. We'll talk about the Browns now, which they've been the biggest letdown in the entire division, in my opinion, because, yeah, they've had some COVID cases through the last couple of weeks, but even then, they were not very good before that. They had a 7-8 record. They had good wins against the Vikings, the Bengals, and the Ravens. They had tough losses to the Chargers, the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Chiefs. And they were blown out by the Cardinals and the Patriots pretty badly. And their O-line is really good. Pretty much put any running back there, and he's guaranteed 4 or 5 yards of carry. It's crazy how talented that O-line is. The defense has been kind of banged up all year long. It seems like I haven't really seen it where they've been able to get Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, their whole secondary rolling at the same time. And I think that's kind of crucial, especially when you're going up against guys like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Deontay Johnson, Marquise Hollywood Brown. They're going up against a lot of really good players all season long. So they need that secondary to be better than what it was. Linebackers hasn't been that great. Myles Garrett is a beast. He's definitely worthy of some Defensive Player of the Year award-winning votes. I don't know if he'll win it, but I think he's definitely warranted some praise for it. And then the crazy thing here is, there was a whole controversy with, blaming Odell and stuff like that. Clearly, he's not the problem. I don't think he ever was. I think part of the problem with this team is this might be controversial, but I don't know if Baker is the long-term answer at quarterback, because he's starting to seem a little bit brittle. And I know Baker's tough. I'm not going to take that from him. He's a tough dude, but he's starting to seem a little bit more brittle than you want at your franchise quarterback. And he's had too many stinker games when you need your quarterback to go out there and, play like not even an MVP. You just need him to play like he's Pro Bowl caliber or something along those lines. The last game against the Packers, he threw 4 picks. I was watching it, and I just knew after the first one, I was like, he's throwing at least 3 or 4 today. I know the Packers defense is solid now, and they're getting better and better every game, but some of those throws were just bad, like straight, just bad. And the O-line is protecting him on most of them. They're just bad throws. And I don't know how confident as Browns fans or NFL fans you can be in Baker as your starting quarterback. Because I think their goals are getting into the playoffs and trying to get to a Super Bowl, because they've got enough talent. I think, they might want to add some more at receiver, but they've got honestly 3 really good running backs, a really, really dang good O-line. Jarvis Landry is a good receiver. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a good receiver. I don't think they have that true number 1, and then they've got 3 really good tight ends. So they have pieces on offense. They just need the person that's going to bring it all together, in my opinion. I don't know if Baker's that guy. Browns fans, if you're watching and you made it to this point in the video, let me know what you think of this, because I'm not trying to bash your team too much, but I want to know where you guys are at on this, how polarizing Baker is of a quarterback for you guys, and what you guys think the future should be for your team. And I think coaching has been good, but I just think that they're missing that guy. I don't know if Baker is that guy. He might be I think he's a solid quarterback, but I don't know if he's that dude that he's going to push you over the top. So, yeah. AFC North Division fans, if you guys got to this part of the video, like and subscribe. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Always helps me. This division is absolutely crazy. It'll probably be even crazier next year. My hopes is that the Bengals can prove that they're legit and need to be taken seriously, especially against this game coming up against the Chiefs, because that's a big one. The Chiefs are on fire. Ravens, you guys got to get healthy. It's kind of this is a lost season, kind of like the Steelers. But the Steelers are just missing too many important pieces in order for them to be a legit threat. They got to start by rebuilding that O-line. Browns, I don't know if your quarterback is the answer. I didn't want to put too much blame on him, but he hasn't been that great. And I don't think that's too much of a shocking statement. I am going to go ahead and call it a video here. So peace.